Extreme Sports by Richard Platt. Living close to the edge. Extreme sports are all about seeking thrills, taking risks, and staying alive. Many of them are played in dangerous places. Steep skiers and snowboarders seek out the highest mountain slopes. Base jumpers, hang gliders, and sky surfers pitch themselves into thin air. Whitewater rafters look for the fastest, roughest routes downriver. Some extreme sports are a showcase for great tricks. Inline skaters and skateboarders learn their skills on city sidewalks. Now, huge audiences watch their gravity-defying stunts. Extreme sports competitors need top-of-the-line equipment: wheels, skis, parachutes, rafts, and engine power. Then they use gravity, muscle, wind, and sheer nerve to go faster, jump higher, or fall farther. The stories that follow are about 5 exciting sports. Each story describes a contest or a place where extreme sports enthusiasts test their skills to the limit. Whitewater rafting. The red truck rattled to a halt, and 6 eager rafters tumbled out onto the track. Below them, the Rio Futalefu wound like a long turquoise snake through the snow-topped mountains of Chile. As the river raiders unloaded their raft, everyone talked about the race. Futalefu means big river, said Dan. After we reach Inferno Canyon, it's Class 5 rapids all the way. Wait till we hit the Terminator, said Rob. That rapid goes on forever. Numbering of rapids. Rapids are numbered to show how fast and difficult they are. Class 5 rapids are for experts only, spectacular and dangerous. Playing safe. Rafters wear high flotation jackets and helmets in case they are swept onto rocks. In cold water, they wear heat-retaining rubber suits. The parking lot soon became a tangle of paddles and ropes. It took nearly an hour before the first group of 5 crews climbed aboard their rafts and paddled downriver to the start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. The river raiders paddled furiously, but another raft swept ahead of them. The tiger rafters, muttered Dan, through gritted teeth. They won last year. All 5 rafts shot through the first rapid, but the next was much harder. The tiger's raft rode the first wave, its front lifting clear of the water. When it crashed down again, the crew vanished in a cloud of spray. Then it was the river raiders' turn to ride the roller coaster of water. They braced themselves for the shock. The river bubbled and boiled beneath the air-filled raft. The raft bounced, twisted, and shook, and the crew was soaked with spray. But an instant later, the water was calm. It was as if the river had flown into a rage and then regained its temper almost as quickly. As they rounded a bend in the river, Dan shouted, "We're catching up!" The two rafts were neck and neck as they plunged into the Terminator. Suddenly, the raiders were on their own. The Tiger Rafter's raft had flipped, and the crew was bobbing in the water. Dan looked back and let out a whoop of joy, just in time to see a pair of legs disappearing over the side. A big wave had knocked Rob overboard and was sweeping him toward the riverbank. "Rob's gone in," Dan shouted. "He's okay, but we'll lose points at the finish if we go on without him." The crew paddled across river and struggled to keep the raft steady as Rob lunged for the side. Two rafts swept past before he was able to haul himself in. At the finish line, the exhausted crew hauled their raft out of the water. They had come in third. "Yeah, but the Tiger Rafters aren't even home yet," said Dan. "And next year, the Whitewater Challenge Cup is definitely going to the Raiders." Aggressive inline skating. Mick pulled some awesome tricks. His alley-oop fishbrain on the coping was so cool. And did you catch that backside royale? That was really great. As usual, the top of the Vert Ramp at the San Francisco X Games was buzzing with skate talk. Mel, one of only 4 girls in the aggressive inline skating trials, tried not to listen. She just wanted a high enough score to get into the finals. She had to concentrate on her run. The vert ramp below her was one of the biggest she had skated on. It was fast enough for her to pull off some neat tricks, but so steep she could easily end up flat on her face. Vert ramps. Vert skaters perform on half-pipes, U-shaped ramps over 10 feet tall. Skaters win points for style, difficulty, and big airs, tricks high in the air. Aggressive inline skates. Ankle-hugging cuffs give extra control. Grind plates between the wheels prevent damage when skaters slide down rails and curbs. Mel fiddled nervously with her skates. They were top-of-the-line, aggressive inline skates, the best she had ever owned. She thought back to her first pair. They had been fine for gliding smoothly along the sidewalks. But when she began to watch the inline skaters in her neighborhood, she realized there was much more to skating than flat pavements. As soon as she started doing jumps and grinds, speeding down curbs and rails on the gap between the wheels, her skates just fell apart. She had taken many falls learning the simplest tricks. Mel stroked the scar on her knee. That cut had needed 3 stitches. "Hey Mel, you're up next," shouted the steward. Mel pulled on her helmet, took a deep breath at the lip of the ramp, and then dropped in. She sped smoothly down the steep curve and up the other side. With a powerful lift, she went into a 540-degree spin and landed perfectly. Mel switched into some grinds on the coping, followed by some big airs. Only 25 seconds left. Fired up by the crowd, Mel decided to finish with a trick she had been working on for weeks. It was called a brainless. As Mel launched into a backflip and began to spin, time seemed to stop, like a video on freeze frame. For one terrifying moment, she was out of control and falling. The crowd gasped as she landed off balance and just managed to stay on her feet. But would that scrappy landing lose her points? Mel, give me 5. The other skaters crowded around. Mel had scored just high enough to qualify. That was a great run. You were really catching air, said Mel's friends. What a cool true spin kind grind. And where did that brainless come from? Mel looked up and grinned as she unbuckled her skates. It was the usual skate talk, but now they were talking about her, and she loved it. Steep skiing. It was perfect skiing weather. The sun was shining, and knee-deep powder snow had fallen during the night. On days like these, steep skiers long for a magic carpet to whisk them up the mountain so they can ski steep, deserted slopes of pure new snow. Today, Jason and some of the world's most daring skiers were doing just that. They were competing in the World Extreme Skiing Championships in Valdez, Alaska. There were no ski resorts in this remote place, just endless snow-covered valleys and towering peaks. Instead of a magic carpet, the competitors had a helicopter to take them to the top of Double Edge Mountain. Crouching beneath the whirling rotors, the skiers climbed on board for their first run of the day. Skiing down Everest. One of the world's most daring skiers, Davo Karnikar from Slovenia, skied down Mount Everest after climbing to the top. The helicopter whipped up a small blizzard of soft snow as it landed, and Jason and the other skiers climbed out. After the skiers had waved the helicopter off, the only sounds were the wind and the crunching of footsteps. On the mountaintop, the competitors were more like friends than rivals. Few people got to see sights like these. Nearly perfect snow, Jason, said one. No risk of an avalanche. Well, I've got my beacon, said Jason, patting his pocket. And you better dig like crazy if I have to use it. Avalanches. Avalanches are deadly snow slides high up in the mountains. If a skier is buried, his beacon sends a signal to rescuers. Avalanches are not the only hazard extreme skiers face. They also risk broken bones as they head down slopes as sheer as the side of a skyscraper. Jason clicked into his bindings and looked down the course. It was a valley called the White Room, steep enough to turn a hobby skier snow white with fear. After a 3-second countdown, Jason launched himself off the mountain. Faster and faster, he sped down the slope, leaving a twisting trail in the snow. Carving from side to side, he just managed to control his speed. His skis skipped on and off the snow as he leaped from turn to turn. Jason plunged into a steep ice gully where several skiers had taken some nasty tumbles on the previous day. Safely through the gully, Jason skied toward a cornice. The giant lip of snow on the edge of the cliff was the perfect launch pad for a big air. Nothing in the world beats this, he thought, as he took off like an eagle and dropped neatly onto the snow below. From the top of the run, the competition base had been a distant speck. Now the slope was leveling off, and Jason could hear a roar of applause as he neared the finish line. The judges and crowd had followed his lightning run and dazzling jumps on a giant TV screen. There was a bigger cheer when his score went up. 134 points made him the winner of the day. And tomorrow's run will be even better, thought Jason. Freestyle Motorcross. Mike Marshall sat astride his dirt bike and gazed across the huge empty arena. He nodded with satisfaction. 2 big yellow diggers had carved out an awesome freestyle motocross course at a Las Vegas stadium. Freestyle Motocross. Freestyle motocross riders launch their dirt bikes off earth mounds and wooden ramps to pull off amazing tricks. Their sport draws huge crowds in the United States. Mike scanned the small mountain range of earth ramps, humps, and bowls and planned his moves for the contest the next day. I'll go for a lazy boy on the first ramp and a bar hop over there. Mike kick-started his bike and began to cruise the course. On a high ramp, he could not resist one stunt. Leaning across the handlebars, he gripped the front mudguard with both hands. A fender grab was not the most difficult trick to pull, but it drew whistles and applause from the small group of fans and mechanics watching from the stands. On contest day, thousands of people packed the huge stadium. The arena rocked with music and cheering. Mike buckled up his boots and pulled on his helmet. He bounced impatiently on the bike as he waited for his round. And now, Mike Marshall, blared the loudspeakers. Mike had just 2 minutes to show what he could do. He revved the engine, raced up the ramp, and jumped the bike high in the air. As he soared, Mike flipped the bike sideways and swung his leg over the saddle and brought it down on the other side of the bike. It was a perfect knack-knack. Stunts and tricks. Many freestyle motocross riders pedal their way to success. They practice their stunts on BMX bikes before trying them out at high speed on a dirt bike. Bikes for jumps. Freestyle motocross bikes are light and powerful. Extra bouncy suspension, springing, softens the impact of landing. At each ramp, Mike pulled off another daring stunt. The crowd was just a blur, but he could sense that people were on the edge of their seats. I could win this, thought Mike. Just one more insane trick to go. Twisting the throttle right back, Mike tore up the ramp. He was flying as high as a house when he leaped up from the bike and gave a cocky wave to the crowd. That wave was Mike's big mistake. He took his eyes off the bike for just an instant, but when he looked back, The bike was spinning away from him. Mike made a desperate grab for the seat, but he was too late. The bike landed with a sickening crunch at the bottom of the ramp, and Mike was thrown head over heels into the dirt. There was silence as 2 paramedics rushed to check him over. "I'm fine. I'm okay," said Mike, as they helped him to his feet. "So what do you call that jump?" asked one of the paramedics. "Loser's leap," said Mike, "because I'm sure it just lost me a medal." X for extreme or X-ray? Jumping a bike high takes nerve, but landing safely requires skill. Some riders learn this the hard way by breaking a leg or, as this X-ray shows, 2 bones in an arm. Base jumping. "Don't do anything dangerous," shouted the truck driver. The 3 base jumpers clambered out at the foot of 4 horsemen, a 1,300-foot-high cliff close to the Colorado River. Danger was just what Jessica, Liz, and Ross had in mind. Today, a strong wind was making jumps risky. But they planned to camp overnight and leap off the cliff at dawn when the air would be calm. Corcovado base jump. In Brazil, a base jumper scaled a 120-foot-high statue of Christ on Corcovado Mountain to jump from the hand. For Jessica, this trip was extra special. She had already jumped from 3 of the 4 objects that gave the sport its name. B for a building, A for an antenna, S for a span or bridge. 4 horsemen would be her E for Earth. Then she would be part of the world's most unusual and risky sports club. The 3 friends pitched their tent below the cliff, ate a quick meal, and crawled into their sleeping bags. Bleep, bleep. The alarm woke Jessica first. "It's 5:30. We should be at the exit point in an hour," she said, shaking her friends awake. The little group followed the steep path to the cliff's top. Some early bird jumpers were already disappearing over the edge of the cliff. Jessica felt excited and terrified as she waited her turn. "You go first," said Liz, gently nudging her forward. Base jumping in Moab. The huge cliffs around Moab, Utah, on barren land with few roads, are one of the few legal sites for U.S. base jumpers. Jessica checked her gear and took her first peek at the dizzy drop beneath her. 3, 2, 1, see ya, she shouted. Taking a deep breath, she spread her arms and plunged from the cliff. For 2 seconds, Jessica plummeted like a stone before releasing her pilot chute. Above her, the parachute surged open with a snap and filled with air, stopping her fall with a jerk. Now, Jessica was swooping over the sandy plain like a bird. Expertly pulling the steering toggles, she turned the parachute toward the sun. Then a tug on the toggles lifted her over a rocky ridge. But a gust of wind caught the chute, spinning her toward the cliff. Base jumping gear. Jumpers throw out a small pilot chute, which inflates and pulls open the main parachute. Chutes have to be checked and packed very carefully. Jessica missed the cliff face by just a few meters. But she was coming in to land too fast. She aimed for the river. Even if I land badly, the water will break my fall, she thought as she hit the surface in a cloud of spray. All around her, brilliantly colored parachutes floated to the ground. Then she saw Ross watching her from dry land. Brilliant, Jess. Are you up for another jump? Not me, laughed Jessica. I've done E for Earth now, and W for wet. Want to see more? Extreme sports are becoming more and more popular. Extreme versions of the Olympics, such as the X Games and the Gravity Games, draw huge crowds in cities around the world. Millions more watch the sports on TV. Events include speed climbing, skateboarding, wakeboarding, sky surfing, street luge, motocross, inline skating, and BMX. These contests are places where fans can check out the latest music, videos, clothes, and equipment, and share some of the thrill of living life close to the edge. The end.